All right. I'm turning around, and I'm attacking the healer.
There's no... You mean the healer in your party?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, okay, but why?
Because last night, during dinner, they ate my fish.
Okay, but you have 6 health.
Yeah,
And you're fighting an adult blue dragon.
Yeah, okay, great. We're all going to die then.
What was the dinner?
It's fish!
Like, how much was the fish?
I don't know, like, I fished it myself, so it was free.
All right, so I guess roll to attack.
Cool.
Hi everyone, welcome to GameGorgon. My name is Krug.
I'm Indigo.
Today we're here to talk to you about PvP in tabletop role-playing games. You notice how awkward that intro was? Well, that's the point.
I think we flat out agreed on the first step when it comes to PvP.
Advice number 1.
Don't
do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it 99% of the time. It's a great way to turn your players against each other at the table, not in the game.
Yeah, not just like the players, but DMs, both of you as individuals should realize this is a horrible idea.
Yeah, it's not something, these role-playing games in general are not usually designed around PvP. They're designed around a collaborative experience, both between all the players and between the players and the GM. And so when you turn them into something combative, it's never fair.
Yeah.
And so you just end up not having a good time. One group, one person is always feeling like they got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of the design aspects within tabletop RPGs is the fact that it's the rule of cool.
Yeah.
Is this character really cool at doing the one thing that this class is supposed to be doing? Great.
Do it.
It's balanced now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it way too strong that they're able to do everything by themselves? Great. Back that down. But but the thing is that doesn't mean that turning the tables and having a bard versus a fighter is an even fight.
Yes.
Because it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah.
In some cases, like if you're the druid and you are, you know what I mean?
And if you're in bear form
Yeah.
and they have to get through your bear HP and through your druid HP, and then on your turn you're just gonna bear form again. Oh, and by the way, you can heal like yourself for oodles of health without like trying, really. You don't have to prepare those spells, they're just like sacrificing spell slots. It's really hard to kill a druid. You have to basically catch them off guard in order for them to not have a fighting chance. If you are going against any character with any sort of charm whatsoever.
Yeah.
Charm is super broken because basically what you're doing is you're taking away one player's fun. Like
their
hey,
ability, their willpower.
Yeah, exactly. That plan that you had for beating me, you don't get to try that.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to do something else instead.
Well, and the way that things are worded, because let's take a step back, actually.
Sure.
The reason we're talking about this, as we have been playing a lot more with different groups, we've been seeing things from GM's perspectives while playing.
Yes.
And we were like, okay, I think this would be helpful conversations to have.
Yeah.
So we are playing in a campaign where there was actually a PvP event.
Right. Which I want to, before we go into it too deep, it was very well done and very fun.
In fact, our tips on when you do decide, and if it is something important to you, we're literally taking from our GM and what they did, and telling you to do that.
Yep.
Because we had a really good time doing it.
And I think both of us have also experienced horrible PvP sessions.
Yes.
Like earlier in life.
I will tell you a horror story. I actually had a player who got a little bit inebriated.
Okay.
Okay. And made a really poor decision and thought, I'm super cool, and I'm gonna kill this civilian right in the middle of a party from celebrations that we're having.
Great. Sounds like a horrible choice.
They go up.
Innocent bystanders were infected.
You can tell who's played. They were killed, right? And another player was like, "Did I see that happen?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yes, you saw that happen." And so they started to go, and they made a check to try to convince everyone that no, this was the real killer, and I had discovered that this is the real killer, and I had to take them out before it was too late.
Okay.
So and they did very well
Sure.
against convincing the majority of the audience as well as the other players.
Okay.
Right? But one of the players was like, "No, you're lying." And he goes, "My character, knowing that he killed an innocent bystander, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
Like I have no moral choice but to do this.
Yep.
And so that started PvP. And again, I was a GM of that.
Oh no.
And I'm like, no.
This campaign's going to end today.
Yeah. It was a little bit rough. Luckily, the person that started the fight died.
Okay, great. That was the right thing to happen.
And so, as a horror story, like it sucks as a GM when your players get into a situation where there's PvP, where you have
disorganized, like spur of the moment PvP, where it's actually potentially coming from the emotion of the player and not the emotion of the character.
Exactly.
It's the worst thing for the table.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
And then not only that, it's like as a GM not being able to, like without like playing God mode and be like, and then the skies break apart and blah 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 happens, right? Without doing that, which feels really, really shitty.
You feel like you're bad at your job whenever you have to resort to that kind of thing.
And so you're just like, my only choice is to do that or let it happen.
Yep.
And let them fight it out.
And pray that they figure it out in a way that doesn't lead to one of them having to re-roll a character.
Exactly.
Which is not a huge deal a lot of the time, especially like in our situation where we go through so many RPGs that like, if William kills my character, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna re-roll a character, like, that's fine. But in some situations, if you've been doing a campaign for a super long time, you might get attached to your character and it might suck to have to re-roll them. You know?
Absolutely. And so I think some of the aspects that our GM did that were very good that I would implore you that if you are in a situation where your players have been talking about PvP over and over again and they really want it to be a part of it, these are some of the tips that we have for you. One, make it in a situation that is unique and that it makes it so that the players are unable to lose their character at the end of it.
Yes, unless they want to.
Yes.
Like your character can always be like, I want to die here before the session, and the GM be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you're a player, I think that's some good advice. If you're looking for your character to die for like a story reason or just because you're bored of them and you want to like come in as a different character.
I have a pen. I want to die.
Tell your GM. Your GM can kill you very easily.
Yes.
But the way that it happened with us is that we were in, what city were we in?
Well, it doesn't matter what city we were in.
Sure, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter. We were in a bar that had a legal fighting ring in the back, like there were guards and everything. It probably wasn't legal. My character thinks it's legal. My int is 8 and I'm naive as a person.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And if you knew it was illegal, you would probably...
I would have to, yeah. That was a conscious thing that's also why I made my int an 8, so I could overlook certain things. Anyways, we were in the bar. There was a fighting ring. There were guards. There was a dome of magic around the fighting arena so that we couldn't nuke the entire like southern half of the audience with a fireball spell.
Sure.
Which Indigo would have done twice in his encounter. And there were, safeguards in place. Like there were guards there, right? Regardless of whether the guards were under the table or over the table, those guards could have stepped in if they needed to. If the game needed them to save the character in question. That option was available 100% of the time. I never felt like any of the characters were in danger. We did it in smaller groups, so it wasn't like we have 7 players, right? So it was smaller groups doing PvP so that we can kind of like go through it a little bit more quickly. And I think that's kind of ideal, right? Give everybody a chance if they want to have a chance. If they don't want a chance, they could sit on the sidelines and try and like manipulate the battle from the sidelines, which was kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that our GM did, which I also really appreciated, was adding NPCs to it.
Yeah.
Not making it just Bard versus Druid. It made it a group event where it was like, okay, now there's strategy, not just like, do I pick you off or do I pick the big guy off or do I like try to stealth out of the situation and let that...
Who do I think that NPC is going to go for first? Like, this isn't somebody I've been traveling with. I don't know who they like or who they don't like or what they're good at and what they're not good at. So it does absolutely add a layer of strategy that wouldn't be there if it was just these players whose personalities whose abilities It definitely was only a benefit to the whole experience.
Yeah, and I think putting it in these situations, having it an underground fighting thing, right? Or underground fight club.
The first rule of Fight Club is You do not talk about Fight Club.
Right? Having it as an arena thing where it's a big part of the city that they're in, where it's like, adventurers from all around the world come here to fight each other to determine their strength. Like, those are very interesting ways that you can implement these into a story where your players want to PvP, right? But I do think it's very, very, very important that if your players are pushing for PvP, that you as a GM need to just flat out tell them, it is not balanced for this.
Yes.
It is not going to be fair, and it is not going to feel good when you lose. Like, you have been playing this character theoretically for a while. You do have some level of attachment to it. Even though you're going to die, right? Or not die and lose your character, but you're going to get knocked out, it does not feel good.
Right. It makes you feel like you didn't pick the right character sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think this is more of a tip for less experienced role players.
Yes.
Because I think experienced role players understand that, like, while your character is designed to feel cool, it's not designed to feel perfect.
Yeah.
Which would be boring. And so I think that might be something that not a lot of people, but like the more experienced role players would just be like, yeah, duh. But for those of you that maybe haven't been role playing as long or haven't been like doing it for, as frequently, like maybe you've been doing it for 4 years, but you've played like 4 sessions total, something like that. It's surprising how attached you can get. Like, even now, like to my characters, I don't want them to die.
Yeah,
I'll accept it if they do, and like in service of the story. But it has to be in service of the story, because then it's like there's a reason behind it. It pushes something forward.
Yeah.
If my character just dies because someone else in my party was bored, like, that's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, going back and looking at the first session that we ever played of this, where we were, or not first session, but like after a few sessions, where we were in a situation where it was supposed to be a no-win situation.
Yeah.
I did not take that well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and it hasn't even been years. It's been like a couple of sessions, and you grow attached to these characters, and you're like, cool. No,
Yeah, I think that's something you said. You're like, I spent time like getting to know this character and like building it, and I want to see how it progresses. I don't want you to take that away from me, because it's really dumb to reroll the same character when you die. That's kind of a cop-out. Like, what are the chances?
But I do understand like very new role players which don't understand what mistakes that they've made or have rolled really bad. Like, there's a lot of really funny memes where it's like, I'm playing D&D for the first time with my little brother, and they died. And they looked at their character sheet and wrote Junior right next to the name and said, I am here to avenge my father's death.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Not to disparage those people.
Yeah, but if you want to do that, that's fine. It's to each their own at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to knock you if that's what you do. For mind-affecting magic, be super careful with that stuff. If you have a character that charms as, like, their bread and butter, that's hard. Because you can't make it fun for one person. So just, like, get into the mindset of explaining to your players exactly how you're going to treat things like that as a GM. If you're going to be like, if they charm you, they get to take your turn,
Sure.
right? Then fine. Tell them that, and then make them decide how they're going to approach the situation. If you're going to be the kind of GM that says, they have to very verbosely explain what they want you to do, and then you, as the player being charmed, can use any loophole you see to get out of the thing, which is how we played it. Which personal opinion here, I think is the most fair way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we played it, and I mean, because the thing is that when you play PvP, you become no more of a stickler for the rules than this very moment.
When everyone learns the whole book at the same time is when PvP starts.
Yeah, because you're no longer caring about what your character does. You're like, okay, hold on.
Are you sure that that's the dice?
What's the spell you're casting? How many times have you cast this spell today? How many spells of that level can you cast?
Wait,
okay.
are you sure that you can heighten that? I don't think that's how
All
that works.
right. DM, do I find this reasonable?
Yeah.
No, not really. Great, spell doesn't work. That's what happened with us. Is I am a wizard.
I'm a wizard, a wizard.
And I was fighting against a bard
Yeah.
who does not have a combat-focused bard.
Yes.
And so they had cast, what was it, Suggestion?
I don't remember.
Yeah, they cast a mind-altering effect on me, and
Yep.
I had failed by like 1 on the first one, and then I failed by a natural 1 the second time because they had hit me, which means that the spell
Yes, ends.
ends. But which I find weird, and I'm surprised,
Well, and
is that you can cast that spell again
And it affects
the same way.
because it's not balanced for PvP.
But even so, like there are other spells that have that kind of caveat to it, and kind of
Yeah.
going. What you're saying is, it's not made to like make 100% sense.
Yeah,
Like
it's made to be fun for the player against mobs. But the way that Indigo got out of it was his character's instructions were to surrender.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying I surrender, he just got down on his knees and put his arms up and like waited for the hit, right? The coup. Then he got hit. The player didn't coup. He just attacked and did max damage, right? And then Indigo got up and finished the fight.
yeah, I got up, and then they did it again. And they're like, no, you have to forfeit. You have to say the words "I forfeit." And like my character is not a character that gives up.
Yeah.
Right? Like going back to the first combat. No. I am not allowing this person to kill me. You know?
Yeah.
Like that is a part of my character. So when I asked the GM, I was like, I used very specific words. I asked the GM, do I find this reasonable? I'm asking you as a GM,
Yeah.
not me as a player.
Part of the spell that they used was
Is the suggestion
like
that they,
self-harmful or something to that effect.
is it self-harmful or reasonable that
Yeah.
they would be asked to do such a thing?
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, go run for the next like 1,000 years, you know, that's
Yeah.
not a reasonable
It doesn't
request.
kill you, but at the same time, it does kill you.
Yeah. And so I asked the GM, does this sound reasonable? And you're like, no, you don't think this is reasonable at all. I was like, great, spell doesn't work. I stand up and I cast Fireball.
Which, in on the flip side, is boring for the bard because
Yeah.
the bard doesn't get to use their magic now at all. Which, again, the problem with mind affecting spells. Just be careful. I think the overall advice here is don't do it if you can avoid it at all. If you do intend on doing it, make sure that characters have minimal risk of death, if not 0 risk of death, and be very, very upfront with how everything is going to work. Because the more upfront you are, the less time the combat will take, the more you can just bottle that up, put it off to the side, pretend it never happened, and move on with the campaign.
Yeah. All of that being said, I just would like to say, see, Adrian, we're not always picking on you.
Yeah, we love the PvP. It was good.
Head down to the comments, and I actually want to hear either your positive or your horror stories about PvP in role-playing games. While you're down there in the comments section, let us know that you liked the video by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and hitting the bell icon. You like that? That was smooth like butter. And then after you do all of that, head over to Twitter and talk to me there. You can talk to me on Twitter at IndigoQT.
And you can talk to me on Twitter at KrugQT. You can also talk to both of us at all these social media things down here. Ooh, hey. Come watch our Dawn of Flame campaign on Twitch.
Oh yeah, do that.
I'm going to give you the little,
Sure.
and then you can, you know.
We've been GameGorgon. See you later.